I'm extremely proud of the Flood Protection Authority East. They had the guts, the courage to come out and say that we're losing the coast at a phenomenal rate, it's dying, and while we've got a terrific plan to restore the coast, the bottom line is we don't have the funds to do it. And what they've had the courage to indicate is to go out and say that part of the problem of the loss of the coast is our human impacts, cutting navigation canals and oil and gas canals throughout the coast, slicing it up and allowing the Gulf to come in closer. Without funds to adequately restore the coast, we're shot. The coast will die. Storm surges will become closer and closer to New Orleans on a daily basis. We've got to restore the coast as soon as possible, and funding is key.
We filed a lawsuit against the oil and gas companies because the land loss that they've caused has placed an additional burden on us and our responsibility to protect people's lives and property. I mean, actually, this is one of our regular board meetings, but it's drawing in a lot more attention than usual because of that action, and we'll have a presentation on land loss. It is not disputed, no one disputes, that the industry has caused an enormous amount of damage. And we believe that they have failed to comply with their contractual obligations to repair that damage. And we also believe they have broken the law, Louisiana statutes, which prohibit somebody from sending more water from their property onto someone else's property. And by destroying the land, they have increased the storm surge that comes up against the populated areas that we're trying to protect those people.
The importance of the lawsuit is that we'll be able to get the funds necessary to improve and maintain the levee system that we have that's protecting the Lake Borgne Levee District, the Orleans Levee District, and the East Jefferson Levee District. The system that we're being given is not something that just stays maintenance free forever. And because of the dynamics of the environment, in other words, because land is subsiding, because we're losing wetlands and coastland areas, storm surges are going to become relatively higher and more threatening. So the system we have today is going to become less and less effective as time goes by because of these factors. And the flood authority is going to have to do some things besides mowing the grass. You know, people think, all you got is O&M, you just got to run some mowers. No, we're going to be having to do a lot of things. We may be having to armor certain sections of the levees where we anticipate the possibility of higher overtopping rates to make sure that they don't wash away, so that the only thing that comes inside the levee protection is just a wave splash coming over the top, which we can handle. We're probably going to have to do a lot of O&M on some of the major structures that were built on pilings with soil underneath it, because the soil is going to have a different subsidence rate than the structures on piling. And so there's going to be a separation that's going to start occurring. And we're going to have to figure out a way to deal with that in an O&M way, how we're going to fix it, how we're going to keep that system as effective as we possibly can. We're going to push for a better science. We would like to improve the information that we have on the bathymetry of the land outside of our system, so that when we calculate the storm surges, we have better data in the model so that we get a more reliable answer. You know, these computer models, they'll do what you want. All you have to do is just put the right words in and you'll get what you want out. What we'd like to do is put accurate information in so that what we get out is a more reliable prediction of what's going to happen when we have storm surges.
I don't know that there's a more important case in the United States of America right now than this particular case. The consequences of doing nothing in this matter and not taking bold action to hold those responsible for damages threatens a great American city, New Orleans. And I don't know that there's another case out there in all of the 50 states in the United States of America that present that type of choice, the decision to do something bold to protect an American city, or the decision to do nothing and placate politics and big oil and not hold them to their responsibilities.
It may be too late. It may be too late for this lawsuit, but we have to try. Each day, we're losing our wetlands. Our wetlands are a natural infrastructure. We have buildings and bridges, which are man-made infrastructure, and we have natural infrastructure, our wetlands, that provide a service, and that service is hurricane flood protection. Without those wetlands, we won't have our flood protection. So this lawsuit is important because it asks the people responsible for the loss of those wetlands to step up, fix what they did, and what cannot be fixed, they can provide funding to the flood authority so that they can maintain our flood protection system.
Before Katrina, we lost an average of 20 square miles of coastal Louisiana every year. During Katrina, during the 36 hours of Katrina, we lost 4 times that much, almost 80 square miles of our coast right on the east side of the river. That's never happened in the history of Louisiana, the history of the country, the history of the world. What has happened is we've lost those natural storm surge barriers, the ridges, all of the marshes that used to be out here historically that built up over 7,000 years. Without those, the Gulf is closer and closer to us every day. And it is, while I'm very thankful for the Flood Protection Authority East and everyone that's helped restore the new storm protection system we have in New Orleans, without the coast, those storm surges are going to get higher and higher every summer. And we've got a ticking clock right now. Every day we wait to restore the coast, the more in jeopardy this community and all of southeast Louisiana is.
What I would say to the citizens is that life as you know it for your children and grandchildren and certainly great-grandchildren will not be here as it has been in New Orleans for the 300 or so years of this great city's existence. Just in another lifetime, this city could be on an island. The Gulf of Mexico could be surrounding the city of New Orleans. And it is critically important that something be done with our coastal loss to protect these communities and these people and these businesses in these areas. And if nothing's done, then we're going to need to think about real alternatives, which are going to include moving out of the city of New Orleans and the greater New Orleans area. So what I would say is that think long and hard about whether you support or oppose this particular action. I would also suggest that these very well-qualified scientists who occupy this board be applauded for their courage, for bringing this issue to the forefront. And I would say to them, to the citizens of New Orleans, is that if not now, when? The impact on the city of New Orleans is very well documented by very credible scientists, and even the oil and gas companies don't disagree with what the consequences of doing nothing are going to be. I mean, the bottom line is in 2100, just 87 years from now, approximately, the city of New Orleans will be an island. And what does that mean to the million or so people that live in the greater New Orleans area? It has a huge impact on all of those people, business, schools, education, commerce, the ports. It's critically important that something be done. And the something that needs to be done is that a master plan or infrastructure needs to be paid for to stop that from happening. And that's what this lawsuit seeks to do. It seeks to hold those who caused the damage or part of the damage responsible for their share and to provide their share of funding to protect the city of New Orleans and the greater New Orleans area.
We need funding. We need funding for coastal restoration. Funded the storm protection system. Thank God for that. But right now, the thing that will save southeast Louisiana, metro New Orleans, is the coastal Louisiana. It was here long ago. It protected us for hundreds of years, the first 300 years of the city. Without it, New Orleans will be shot.
I think the facts are on our side. The law is on our side. Science is on our side. I think we should prevail.
The end result, obviously, would be that the companies, where it's possible, they go back and repair the damage that they caused. And if it's not possible in some cases, it might be open ocean now, then that they pay us some money so that we can improve the flood protection system to protect people's lives. It's really pretty simple. You got a choice. You can choose to protect the oil and gas industry from having to obey the law and having to keep their written word in contracts or in permits, or you can choose to protect people from hurricanes. It really is that simple. If we didn't feel they had broken the law, we wouldn't be suing. If we didn't feel they had violated their written obligations, we wouldn't be suing. And you know, if we lose, it's because the courts find that they did not break the law, but we think they did. It's not controversial that they damaged the land. Their own scientists, industry scientists, share in the conclusion. There was a study a few years ago which industry scientists participated in, which concluded that statewide 36% of the total land loss was caused by oil and gas operations. There are other scientific studies that put the estimates much higher in terms of the responsibility of the industry. So, I mean, that's just not in dispute.
We're doing our best to get the system up to 100-year. We'd like to provide 500-year protection, but if the word comes out that they suggest evacuation in the case of a storm, evacuate. If it's a mandatory evacuation, evacuate. If it's a suggested, evacuate. Because even though we have a protection system, it is not perfect. And the more people that stay behind put other people at risk if there's a breach or a failure. Then also you have to consider that there's a lot of infrastructure that's going to be destroyed even if the levees aren't breached. And it's hard to have a population live for months without potable water, without sanitary facilities, without food, without communication. So I don't care what you think about the protection, whether it's the best in the world or it's not any good. If the order comes down or the recommendation comes down to evacuate, my God, please do evacuate.